Hi, my name is Nicole Hodge. For this presentation, I'm going to focus on the mention of Liberia in Chapter 12 from Stamped from the Beginning, written by Ibram X. Kendi. I'm going to be honest, I stopped and started this project more times than I can count, which is why it's so late. When I read about Liberia in Stamped, I was stunned. I was educated in the 80s in the US, so my knowledge of world history is about as limited as my proficiency in geography. But when I say I was absolutely floored when I read what Kendi wrote about Liberia, it's actually an understatement. I mean, the US started a colony. The colonies started another colony in Africa, a free black colony. How is this the first time I'm hearing of this? I feel like it's something I would have remembered learning. But I wanted to know more, so I went down this research rabbit hole that was hard to pull myself out of. At any rate, I was overwhelmed by the amount of information I came across, and I couldn't figure out how to present it in 3 minutes. In the meantime, I've been telling and retelling the people around me what I've learned from this research, so I figured instead of making the standard PowerPoint presentation, I'm just going to wing it and summarize what I found. So there were a few things happening at this time. Well, a few is another understatement. I mean, seriously, there was really so much happening. For one, in London, the Committee for the Relief of the Black Poor played a crucial role in the proposal to form Sierra Leone in Africa in 1787 as a place to send freed black slaves from Britain. Then, from 1791 to 1804, the Haitian Revolution occurred and was victorious against Napoleon's army. White refugees from Haiti escaped to the U.S. shores, bringing with them horror stories of plantation owners being ruthlessly murdered, which terrified slave owners here in the South. Meanwhile, U.S. slaves were planning their own revolts. One of these, which was set to be the largest in history, was planned by Gabriel and Nancy Prosser and scheduled to happen in August of 1800. The revolt was foiled, but nonetheless instilled enough fear in the slave owners of the South for them to consider alternatives to slave trading. Unfortunately, breeding the slaves they already had was one option. And then, of course, there were the ever-auspicious abolitionists who wanted to end slavery for either religious or political reasons. These two opposite ends of the spectrum, and many people who were in between, now had a common ground with the ideology of removing black people from the states. Together they formed the American Colonial Society, originally called the Society for the Colonization of Free People of Color in America. All involved with the ACS believed colonization of freed blacks and emancipated slaves would be the best for everyone, including black people. And it would serve a dual purpose. First, the U.S. would be able to separate itself from, as the Virginia House of Delegates put it, people who were dangerous to the peace of society. And two, the colonists could Christianize and civilize the wilds of Africa. Of course, they would be governed by white Christian men who would design the colony based on the United States Constitution. A few free black people like Paul Cuffey supported colonization. Cuffey was a northern wealthy captain and ship owner. In 1817, he funded his own journey to Sierra Leone along with 38 other African Americans on board with the intent to start a colony. But most black people were in opposition, so he lost his support and sadly died shortly after. Here's the thing, black people at this time, they were as American as the white people. It had been nearly 200 years since slaves were first brought to the colonies from Africa. These people wouldn't be returning to their homeland. No. These people would be leaving everything they knew behind them, setting up entirely new lives from scratch in a foreign country that they knew nothing about. Actually, the only thing they knew about Africa was that it was a backward, wild place full of savages. This information brought to them by the white folk. These black people had lived their lives and raised their families in the United States. They had plowed the fields, built the infrastructures, and were as much as, if not more, part of the development of the United States as any white person. They were true Americans. I've already gone well past the 3-minute mark. But I want to leave you with the thing that blew my mind the most. Our European-based country birthed a colony in Africa 200 years after its own conception, with Americans that no longer had ties to Africa. What does history tell us about what happened when the Europeans came to this land? How did they act towards the natives here? What did the Europeans do to those natives? Take a minute to let that sink in. The Americans who were sent to Africa only knew what the Europeans had taught them. Consider how they may have acted in this land that was new to them. Anyway, there's so much more, and the rest, as they say, is history. And Liberia has an extremely fascinating one. If you are interested in learning more, please feel free to contact me or see the attached page for links to watch and read even more. Thank you.